welcome to Fox Valley Today. I'm your host, Anne Vickery. Thank you for joining us. Joining me today is Corrina Cole, who is the Economic Development Director for the Village of Oswego. Good morning, Corrina.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming over and joining us here at Fox Valley Today. We're glad to have you.
My pleasure.
Oswego, one of those very vibrant towns, has been very many times associated with the next Naperville. Anybody who's lived in Naperville knows that there's one thing about Naperville, it's very beautiful, and the taxes are outrageous. So we're hoping that the second part isn't true. Oswego is a lovely town on the river, of the Fox Valley River, a town that, one of the oldest towns in the county. And so tell us a little bit, you're young, have probably not a big history with Oswego, but tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to Oswego.
Well, up until, I guess, May of 2016, I was living in New York City, working for the New York City Economic Development Corporation out there, doing economic development. You know, my husband and I, we have 2 little boys, and we decided it was time to have a change of pace and a different quality of life, and so we decided to relocate near family. My family is out in the Geneva, St. Charles area, and so we moved out here, and then I started to look for a job. And you know, when I was in New York City, one of the things that I got to do there that I really loved was work with community-based nonprofits out in New York's many neighborhoods. And I got to really see how you know, projects could transform neighborhoods in very positive ways, really help the people there. And you know, it's project-based work that I was doing, which means it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Right. And so when the project was done, I was out. And that's one thing that I always kind of regretted, because you make relationships with people, you get to see how things are just getting started, and then I'm on to something else. And so I made the very deliberate decision when I came here to say, I want to be a place where I can see the whole community grow. And so I kind of you know, cast my net out there and heard about Oswego and put my name in the running, and I got hired. So, but going back to what you said about project, but each of those projects brought you a new set of, a new skill set. I hope so, yes. Different people, different cultures, different types of growth and project types. And as you talked about that, though, you used the word to work within communities to do that. So you came back and you said this very same word when you came to Oswego. You wanted to be part of one single community. That's correct. So, and a girl who grew up on the Fox River in St. Charles and Geneva, there you go, you're right back on that river, girl. Well, actually I didn't. I grew up in Northern California. Oh, boy, now you got us all confused. I'm sorry. Anyway, but there's a lot of rivers in California too, so we're good. We've all got part of the river. So anyway, you came here to Oswego, and you've been here since October of 2016. That's correct. Tell me, so you had some association with Oswego, because you knew where it was when you came back. Your family's from up around the Geneva, St. Charles area now. Lived there for a while. So you have a little bit of a, it's not a big cultural change from Geneva to Oswego, believe me. So what do you see in Oswego as some of the most exciting and stuff that you've so far really loved? Well, first I would say community. I mean, community, it's the word for Oswego, I think. Right. And it's delightful and a bit surprising. I mean, as you point out, coming from New York, you get a lot of different things, but I think community isn't quite as accessible. And here in Oswego, it is. So that's one thing. You know, downtown development, it's the village board's priority, and it's really exciting. I mean, there are some really beautiful features of downtown Oswego. There's the riverfront, and the riverfront isn't really developed. It feels very natural. You see the eagles, the bald eagles out there, and there are beautiful parks and forested areas or areas with trees along the riverfront. And then you have this downtown
that has its own charm. You said the next Naperville, and I'd contest that. I'd say that,
Good.
you know, it has a different feeling. I mean, Naperville is beautiful, and it's much more developed in its own right. I think Oswego has a bit more of a casual vibe, but it's still just so charming. And then it has, you know, unique businesses. It's got the Village Grind. It's got the quilt shop. It's got a variety of different things. And so when you're looking at development and opportunities there, I have this really unique opportunity to help enhance that, but not undo that.
Okay, but when you talk about the downtown area of Oswego, and I know that you're working hard at developing that Alexander Lumber piece of property, but downtown Oswego is really kind of hemmed in. I mean, it's a very small area. About the only way you could really push is south. I mean, as if you were to grow the downtown area, is to push down. What is that main street that runs down there? Is it Main Street?
There's Main Street,
yeah,
yes.
Right, okay. Well, I would see, look at that, what a guess that was today. But, I mean, the only way you could really go there is south, or maybe push up through Washington Street out towards 71. But your bigger project right now is trying to develop that piece of Alexander Lumber, right?
That's correct,
Can
yes.
you tell us about where you're at on that?
Sure. So in December, the Village Board voted to authorize signing a RDA, that's a redevelopment agreement. And basically that's a contract, an agreement that governs the development process with Shodine. And Shodine, as you know, is a developer that has developed up and down the Fox Valley, and is known for their commercial developments, but also their luxury residential units. And we'll be working with them. Right now, what's planned is a mixed-use development that will go there. Mixed use meaning it has commercial space, luxury rental residential, and a structured parking garage.
Okay, now I grew up in this area, so when I think of the Alexander Lumber parcel, I would say at the most that would be maybe 6 or 7 acres there.
No, it's like a 1 1/3.
Okay, so then all this can't go into 1 1/3 acres, right?
Well, it's going to be taller. It's going to be 6 stories, and there's going to be 2 buildings.
And there's going to be 2 buildings on 1.3 acres. See, I guess I was thinking it was you push farther back on that, but not, huh? I mean, more to the north. But all that's going to go in. That's going to be very high density.
It'll be high density.
Very high density. And how do you, when you think about that, 245 condos or apartments, and maybe adding maybe as many as 350 to 500 cars a day into that area, plus the commercial. How do you expect to handle the traffic coming and going? That is already a very congested area right now coming through Oswego.
So we're working with the Illinois Department of Transportation. We have traffic counts. I do think that there will be an uptick in the number of people driving in and out, but we don't anticipate it to be gridlock. They have ways of sort of predicting these things. And so with the parking, the increased parking, we'll have more ability to handle the cars once they're in our downtown.
Okay, so, but people still need to egress and ingress. They're going to go in and they're going to go out. But that doesn't seem to be anything that anyone's too concerned about at this point.
We're certainly looking at it, and we definitely want to make sure that we do what we can to make the downtown a place where you can visit and enjoy visiting. So we don't obviously want to create a situation where there's bad traffic, but there are plenty of points to get in and out of the downtown.
Yeah, okay, well, that'll be interesting to see how that all pulls together. What other projects are going on in Oswego that you could talk about today?
Sure. Well, we're still working with Potters to see if we can bring, or the owners of Potters, so we can bring a Mexican restaurant like the one in Naperville, but Oswego's own.
I have to stop you there. When that was announced, that was as if it was a done deal. why are you saying today you're still hoping?
We're still working on it. Well, you know, we had some setbacks. We worked with the county, and the loan wasn't going to happen with them to make that happen. But the project is still going forward, and we're still in conversations with them about how to make that work best.
Did anybody ever ask them why they pulled out of Plainfield? That was a very successful, or I thought a pretty successful restaurant, Potter's. They were in Plainfield for years, and boom, they were gone.
I don't have any
no idea on
information about
that. Yeah, and they did do an excellent job of Mexican food. They really did. And I think Mexican food is popular. I don't care where you go. You go Italian, you go Mexican. I'm telling you, people are going to flock there.
I really do enjoy my chips and salsa.
Yeah, so do I. Your newest addition to Yorkville out there on Route 34 is the Longhorn Steakhouse.
Yes.
And
I was there yesterday.
Were you? And seems to be absolutely positively thriving.
That's what we hear.
Yeah, I mean, you go by there on any night of the week and the parking lot is full. Haven't had a chance to get over there yet, but what did you think?
I think it's fantastic. It's a smaller concept, a smaller restaurant footprint, but it's a trend, I would say, in restaurants right now to kind of consolidate their size of their buildings, and they're doing very well. We've heard there's lines out the door sometimes because people are so excited to go, and they're piloting that in Oswego.
And what does that restaurant seat? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and is there? I'm just going to ask you a question. Is there bar when you go in? Is there bar kind of a square bar when you walk in? It's okay.
Well, you can't sit all the way around it.
Right.
It's like a rectangle.
Right. I have gone into a number of their restaurants, and some of their newer restaurants in different communities, and I just wondered if that was kind of all set on the same footprint, but perhaps a little bit smaller. Why do you think that trend is to kind of downsize some of the restaurants a little bit?
You know, the restaurants in the business do a lot of work to make sure that they can maximize user experience and profit, and that's what they're seeing. It's not just Longhorn. I've heard that across the board.
Is that right? Just a little bit smaller? I mean, it's very difficult, I think, you still have to heat that building, you still have to cool that building, and you're still paying the taxes on all that square feet. So I guess that makes sense.
They have, they know what they're doing, I guess, is what I'd say.
Yeah, I would guess that's
But you
true.
walk into the building and it doesn't feel cramped or anything like that. It still feels spacious. It still feels wonderful. The food is fantastic. They do a good job with the atmosphere.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. What else do you have coming into Oswego that you can talk about?
So Steve Baresh from the Cheesecake Store in Plainfield is opening up a location in Orchard Junction in Oswego.
Okay, that's right on Orchard Road.
That's correct.
Is that close to what other businesses then?
It's close to Prohibition Junction.
Okay, yes, I know where that's at.
And I don't know if you've ever sampled it, but it's fantastic. I'm not even really a cheesecake fan, and his cheesecake blew me away.
Yeah.
So.
Just a little personal story. Downtown, there was always a restaurant, a couple of different stores called Let Them Eat Cake. And got one of the biggest traffic tickets I ever got in my life. Double parking while I was trying to go in and buy a cheesecake.
Salted caramel cheesecake. I'm telling you, he does an amazing job of that. I could not believe it.
And if you're talking about cheesecake, if you've ever been, and I know you have, been into the Cheesecake Factory, which is a big restaurant, and talking about huge restaurants. Those are huge restaurants.
That's right.
And always seem to just keep that traffic going all the time. Well, I guess the big elephant in the room for Oswego and Montgomery and Kendall County continues to be the dissolution, what's the word to use, the evaporation of one of the most important manufacturing facilities that this county and community had ever seen was Caterpillar. Much to the dismay of not only the employees, but the tax base. We're probably going to see that go. I know there's still about 800 employees up there. they've actually extended a little bit longer than what they thought they were going to be there. Can you tell us what's going on with that?
Well, I can tell you that that Oswego participates with the Kendall County or Kendall area Caterpillar Task Force.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a consortium of elected officials, city officials, economic development professionals like myself from the area. And our goal is to work collaboratively with Caterpillar, with the state, with whomever is a stakeholder in this whole process, to try and maximize the chances that a new employer can come in, and that the individuals that are employed by Caterpillar have all the opportunities that we can make available to them to find, new employment or job training. I will say that I know that Caterpillar is very good on that latter point of working with their employees.
Right.
And I know that Caterpillar's hired a broker to work with them on that site. And we're ready and willing to help in any way we can.
And this is only a personal opinion, but in the worst case scenario, Caterpillar, you just can't make it happen. There's a lot of things that wouldn't fit there. I mean, but the thing that you do have there is you have a lot of parking, you have sewer, you have water, you have gas, you have everything already there. You have several hundred acres. But in the worst possible scenario for some people might be they level the whole place. But wouldn't that still, even if you look down the road 10 years, wouldn't that still just be an area that could be an economic boom for Oswego, Montgomery, the county anyway? I mean, to have that land open up and to be able to use it for commercial space and build it from the ground up again.
Well, whenever you're looking at a situation like this, there's a lot of opportunity. And so what you do is you work collaboratively to see what's the cheapest and what's the most profitable, but also what's best for taxpayers and the neighbors and so forth. And so, 10 years down the road, if a series of things happen, maybe there's possibilities there, but I'm really focused on working with CAT on the immediate term.
Right. And I think, that everybody would have a hope that it would, that somehow they could turn it around and make it into another manufacturing facility, or maybe break it up into different areas. But the buildings are old. I mean, in many cases, they're 60 years old. And and I can understand the issues. They're outdated for a lot of things, for the fact that the ceilings, the roofs are not near as high as they need to be to put in major robotics to be able to move and distribute as they do now in the big warehouses. But I think it'll be interesting. I give you guys a lot of credit for, jumping in there and trying to hold the faith that maybe that you can get something going. Caterpillar is an American company, and this has been a part of this community for 60 some years, and we were talking earlier, as I grew up, if your dad wasn't a farmer or a self-employed businessman, he probably worked at Caterpillar.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of history with it.
Yeah, and I mean, it does have an impact on the community, and I mean, there's the actual economic impact, which, is jobs and things like that, but there's also that sort of change in history. And
the tax base is going to be an incredible hit. Have you guys discussed how Oswego or some of these other tax entities, because they're going to come back and they're going to say, we want a reassessment on this?
They're in unincorporated land, which means they're with the county.
Right.
And I can't really speak to what
but that all
doing.
Filters on down with that. And as as a former county board chairman and being on the county board for years, I do understand that as to what that tax base can really do. So that's kind of the downside. And who all is on? How many people are on that CAT task force?
There are a lot of people on the task force.
I can't give you a 20
number.
or 30 or?
you know, it's a long list. It's all of our local officials, representatives from our local elected official bodies. So you have Scott Greider, the board chair, the county board chair, you have Gail Johnson, the Village of Oswego's village president, same with Matt Brawley from Montgomery, and like I said, economic development professionals from the area. You also have administrators, village administrators, county administrators, and then state representatives and senators that are affected in the area. Aurora's Mayor Irvin is involved. And then we have our local federal officials that Representative Hultgren participated in our press conference. So did Representative Foster. The senators were not able to make it, but they were definitely interested.
And how often are you meeting?
Well, with a group that big, it's hard to assemble everybody all at once. So we haven't had a subsequent meeting of everybody, but we have a smaller, more local group, a steering committee, and we're in touch fairly frequently.
Okay, all right. We're going to take a little bit of a break. We'll be right back with Corrina Cole from the Village of Oswego Economic Development, and we'll be right back. Stick with us.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
We'd do anything for kids. Yet 1 in 6 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger. Help end childhood hunger near you. Learn how at feedingamerica.org.
Your son wants to get a cat, but you're allergic. Do you A, prepare yourself, B, make the best of it,
C squared equals
25.
Good job!
or C, find a loophole? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Welcome back to Fox Valley Today. I'm here with Corrina Cole, Economic Development Director from the Village of Oswego. And while we were off camera, Corrina was talking to me a little bit about a book that she had read called Love Where You Live. And Love Where You Live leads to the next new trendy word called placemaking. And it used to be we're trying to make a place, but now we're placemaking. So tell us a little bit about that trend and what you're thinking.
Sure. Well, let me give you a little bit of background. Placemaking is the idea that when you go someplace, you recognize it as some place that you enjoy and you don't think of, oh, I want to go to this store or that store specifically. You think of, I want to go to this place. So in this area, people always talk about downtown Plainfield. Oh, I'm going to downtown Plainfield.
It is just a very
right?
lovely place.
So it's a place, and what goes into a place? You know, there's things like the way the streets feel, or the shops that are there, or the music that you hear, or the parks that you can go to, or even maybe there's some sculptures or some street benches that you like to linger around.
Right.
And so this is something that we're really interested in downtown Oswego. Downtown Oswego already has really good features, good bones. And you know, when we're looking at placemaking, we're looking at ways to help increase that sense of, oh, let's go down to downtown Oswego instead of, you know, let's just go down to the tap house, because it's good that people go down to the tap house, and we want them to go to the tap house.
And we all feel better after when we leave.
That's right. But you also want them to go from the tap house to something else,
right? And
to feel that sense of warmness and welcoming and identification with the place. So when I was in you know, I'm part of something called the International Conference of Shopping Centers, and I go to these conferences.
Not just shopping, but shopping centers.
That's right.
Okay.
And you go, and I mean, a lot of economic development professionals are, and we go and we try to attract businesses. And I met with a developer when I went in May, and he said, you know, the number one thing that a municipality can do to ensure their good fortune in this day and age is to have an authentic downtown experience. Meaning it doesn't feel like, you know, a Disney place. It doesn't feel, you know, overly commercial. It feels like a downtown that kind of organically grew over time.
Bring that. Have you ever been to Morris?
No.
That's an experience you need to do.
Yeah,
Get out there and get down Route 47 and take yourself to downtown Morris. And look what they did to that downtown.
So you know what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Because I mean, you talk about the word placemaking. It's a destination town.
Exactly.
It's a place you want to go for that experience, for shopping, for a unique lunch, for that feeling of everything is just cozy and nice and cute or culturally where I want to be today.
Right. And it has its own feel. You think of Morris the way it is. You mentioned Oswego's the next Naperville. We don't want to be the next Naperville. We want to be Oswego as a place.
All right, and I get that. Everybody wants to have their own identity, and I think you're on your way. I would much rather see those apartments be condos. I think that's my personal opinion. I like the idea of all the little shops and people coming downtown and making their way. What would be your vision to make that even better?
Well, we are bringing the Shodine property, and we're requiring that there's going to be at least one restaurant that's going to be there. But even by building this property and doing some street improvements, we're connecting the beautiful just gem of the Hudson Crossing Park.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
Yes, it is. Up to Main Street, which is already beautiful. We've got the brewery going in there that kind of acts as a draw to and from both of these places. We're looking to add experiences and comfort in the form of the way the streets are done, the way it feels, and eventually maybe some public art that kind of gives people a reason to look and to keep walking and to strolling.
Well, I think Oswego has acquired one of their first gems, and I think that might be you.
Oh, thank you.
No, and I mean that sincerely, because you seem to bring some whole new, a new feeling, a cultural experience from living where you have, and some ideas that I think are been long on the table. You just keep pushing, and you just keep pushing hard. And don't be afraid to stop and say what you think. Okay, thank you very much for joining us on Fox Valley today. Thank you to Corrina. I think she's going to do a wonderful job, and she's going to be there for a long time. Okay, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Coming up on Daytime, a local man being portrayed by Chris Hemsworth in the film